In tonight's headlines, Development Secretary Bernadette Linn says nearly 3,000 hectares of land will be available for development within the next decade. John Lee optimistic about the resumption of multiple entry visa scheme for Shenzhen residents to boost tourism and business. And Hong Kong sizzles on one of its hottest days in October since records began.
The government forecasted that there will be 3,000 hectares of developable land in the city over the next decade, with those from Kaoyichou artificial islands reduced to 300 hectares. Development Secretary Bernadette Linn denied that the government had given up on the project. Linn highlighted that among the 3,000 hectare developable land, nearly 60% belongs to the northern metropolis, and the latest supply forecast of Kaoyichou artificial islands was reduced to 300 hectares compared to 400 hectares in last year's forecast. We will complete the environmental impact assessment process for the reclamation works of Kaoyichou artificial islands next year, with land reclamation postponed to mid-2027 and expected land supplied by 2032, Linn added. The development chief said the pace has slowed a bit on environmental assessments, but never on hold. Meanwhile, in Shenzhen Technopole, Linn said the government identified 3 pilot sites covering nearly 10 to 20 hectares for the development of local districts mode.
These 3 sites are the Shenzhen Technopole, Hongshui-Qiu Hachun, and Fanlin North. The land use planning for these 3 sites have been completed, and the statutory procedures have already been done. Afterwards, we will invite for tender.
When asked about concerns regarding potential tender failures, Linn said they will conduct a market intention survey by the end of this year and believed that the large scale of the land is attractive to developers. Under the development of local districts mode, developers can undertake comprehensive projects without applying for funding and tenders from the government for each project, which could help enhance cash flow and accelerate construction progress, she added. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
Chief Executive John Lee has proposed to the central government to resume the multiple entry visits for Shenzhen residents after a nearly 9-year halt and hope the scheme will finally include more cities in the mainland to create mutual benefits. Taking to the airwaves, the city leader said the SAR and mainland's two-way interactions are vital for a multiplier effect, fostering complementary strengths. To this end, Lee hoped not only to revive the multiple entry scheme for Shenzhen residents, but to also expand it to Greater Bay Area and eventually the broader Guangdong province. Believing that mainland authorities would not object to this initiative just because they worry about losing local consumption to Hong Kong. Collaborations among individuals, businesses, and local governments lead to mutual benefits beyond tourism, resulting in positive outcomes that are hard to quantify, he noted. The chief executive also shared his vision to promote Hong Kong's brand as a global education hub. He said the quality of education in the city is comparable to other popular study abroad destinations, emphasizing the need to promote its unique advantages to compete with other regions. Even though we are not as spacious as other cities, we have a vibrant atmosphere and a multicultural environment. Also, people always forget that we have the most convenient, affordable, and accountable public transport in the world, Lee noted. As for whether the government would step up scholarship amounts to lure students to further their studies in Hong Kong, Lee said the government will act within their means as resources are limited. He also encouraged local universities to allocate a portion of their operating revenue to expand dormitory facilities, assuring them of government support. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Despite midway through October, the mercury at the Hong Kong Observatory's headquarters still hit as high as 33.7 degrees Celsius until 12:30 p.m., logging the latest occurrence of very hot weather of the year. The record was last broken 7 years ago when the city logged a maximum temperature of 32.7 degrees on October 12. Some areas in the new territories even clocked temperatures of over 34 degrees. Meanwhile, the weather forecaster said a fresh to strong easterly airstream will affect the coast of Guangdong in the next couple of days. A dry northeast monsoon is expected to reach southern China on Tuesday. The weather will be generally fine over the region midweek next week. It will be slightly cooler in the morning and at night.
Chief Secretary Eric Chen said the setting up of the Committee on Education, Technology and Talents announced in the policy address could ensure the coordination and establish an overall direction for the three bureaus in these specific aspects, and that moving forward, the government will focus on retaining talents. Chen, chair of the newly formed committee, highlighted that these areas are deeply intertwined, as talent cannot thrive without education, and technology enhancements is rooted in educational frameworks, so the coordination can maximize synergies. As for talent retention, meanwhile, the policy address set a new target to make sure at least 50,000 incoming talents apply for visa extensions each year from 2025 to 2027. Chen acknowledged that brain drain and return are normal, but the government will endeavor to help talents adapt to the city. We have conducted interviews to find out why they come to Hong Kong, and it turned out that the city has advantages in terms of low tax rates and, most importantly, security, he added. The chief secretary said the future talent intake should be targeted at local shortages, highlighting that the incoming talents meet high standards and those who could not find well-paid jobs just need time to adapt. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
The government unveiled its plan to launch the first phase of the low-altitude economy with a focus on aerial inspections and drone deliveries, and will work with industry leaders and partner institutions to launch pilot programs. Deputy Financial Secretary Michael Wong, who leads the working group on developing low-altitude economy, said industries have shown vast interest.
For example, food delivery. Well, there's been strong interest expressed actually. And after the working group has been set up, we will meet with these operators.
Wong said the working group will hold its first meeting next month with a goal to introduce a regulatory sandbox early next year to prioritize pilot projects. This initial phase will target the transportation of lighter goods, including takeout, letters, and medications, across key areas such as the Science Park, Cyberport, outlying islands, and the northern metropolis. Industry applications will start at the end of the year, and government experts will subsequently evaluate the economic impacts. Furthermore, the deputy financial head said the current small unmanned aircraft order will be revised to cope with the new strategies, and the authorities will conduct research and develop regulations for drones heavier than 25 kilograms. Amendments will be submitted in the first half of 2025. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News. An investigation by Greenpeace has found significant amounts of plastic waste in 2 rivers in the city, urging the government and businesses to tackle plastic pollution at its source. Researchers from the environmental group collected over 3,200 pieces of waste along the banks of the Tamjin River and Pui-O River between June and September, with 97% identified as plastic. Most of the waste comprised single-use plastic packaging and utensils. Packaging can be significantly reduced at the source. What we truly want is the product itself, not the packaging, said Leanne Tam, campaigner of Greenpeace. She said the river study showed that the packaging is often used for just a few minutes before being discarded, yet it can remain in the river for hundreds of years. The group is calling on the government and beverage manufacturers to set specific plastic reduction targets. They also recommended the adoption of a returnable utensil system, drawing inspiration from practices in other regions, and urged swift implementation of the second phase of the plastic-free initiative.
A drone was launched towards Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home near the port city of Caesarea in northern Israel. It was one of the 3 drones fired towards the city, out of which one hit a building, while the other 2 were intercepted. Neither Netanyahu nor his wife were at home at the time of the incident, and no injuries were reported. The suspected attack by Iran-backed militia group Hezbollah came after at least 33 people were killed in an Israeli airstrike on the Jabalia refugee camp in North Gaza. Israeli forces have stepped up attacks on the densely populated camp in recent weeks, saying it's trying to prevent fighters from Palestinian group Hamas from regrouping. The killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar 2 days ago in Gaza has not altered the course of the conflict, and Israel has vowed to continue its fight until all hostages are released. Although the United Nations is optimistic about a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, US President Joe Biden suggested that negotiating a peace deal between Israel and Hezbollah could be easier than forging one between Israel and Hamas. Sachin Katwi, Cable News.